As you see on my resume, my name is George Lewis Moldovan III. I go by Trey because I am the third. I come from Michigan. I moved here in 2008. I had mostly jobs in receiving back home. I worked at Country Market in receiving. We'd receive all the merchandise in from manufacturers, have to unload trucks, and keep the stock of the stock room organized and in tune. I also worked at Michigan Cat there, maintaining the heavy equipment, making sure everything's in the right place, nothing gets damaged, and I had to receive in the new equipment that came in and help them there, just maintaining the shipyard. And when I moved here, I worked at Walmart in receiving, and I actually helped to lead the guys in second shift, unloading the truck, stacking the pallets, pulling merchandise to the floor, and then later stocking the floor. But I was the one that ended up being shift lead after I was there. I went to community college in Oakland Community, back home in Michigan, got my associates in business administration, and I continued that when I came to Florida here. I started at UNF, and I got my bachelor's in business administration, and I actually excelled in my project management class. We did a project on installing windows in a stadium, and we got shining reviews on that. Got very good grades. I've worked also at dealerships, both in Michigan and here, maintaining inventory, vehicles coming from the manufacturers, dealing with customer cars, just kind of making sure all the inventory is in good order. I mean, they are customers' cars, you want to make sure they don't get damaged. Had to stock fluids and such to make sure the supplies for the shop were all on point. Just basically maintaining everything that the dealership has. Three of my strengths: I have a very high drive. I have very much pushed towards what I have to get done. I'm not somebody that likes to wait around for something to happen. I very much like to take the initiative and do things myself. I have a very big focus on efficiency and attention to detail. When I was manager over the express department at Honda, I set up a process so that the guys, when they were doing their cars and working on the cars, they would be able to do things in a certain order that they didn't keep stepping over themselves. Stepping over yourself is a way to hurt yourself if you're go back over doing something you already did, or maybe you step over something you set down already. It's also a way, of course, in express department to make things run faster. So efficiency is very important there. Attention to detail also, because again, when you're working on a customer car, you need to make sure everything's tight, everything's where it should be. Make sure you inspect everything, get everything on point, because you need it all to be brought up when they're there. If they leave and something goes wrong that we didn't catch, then we'd be liable. I'm very observant. Again, when I was manager over the express department, I could watch everybody and kind of make sure everyone was doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I could help my boss do different things and keep an eye on the shop, just because you got to keep in tune and keep watching what's going on around you and be very vigilant to make sure everything's in the way it should be going and in the right place. Three of my weaknesses: I would say that because I have such an attention to detail, I almost have too much attention to detail. Sometimes, like with my school projects, I would find that I'd meet the requirements of the assignment and I'd have everything set up, but then I kept second guessing myself, and I go back over and I try and rework and push forward, and sometimes I just overthink and overcomplicate a project just because it had to be perfect to me with my standards. So sometimes I can have too much attention to detail. That also is because I'm a perfectionist and I have very high standards for myself. So sometimes the requirements of something somebody else wants aren't what I expect of myself. So I can keep second guessing myself, and it doesn't make me turn assignments in late or miss due dates, but it's just something where I keep going over myself, and sometimes I don't think the improvements I make are for the better. So I just need to trust myself that I'm efficient enough to do things right the first time when I'm doing them, and not need to second guess myself, keep going over it each thing. I'm a very big team player. Almost every job that I've had, I end up excelling or becoming a lead role, either through my own designation and later my bosses catching on, or just because I'm already doing the job and then they need someone to fill the spot, so they give me the leadership position. When I worked at Walmart, you're unloading the trucks, you need to get all the merchandise, all the boxes flowing down this line so that people can stack the pallets with that merchandise. And I just kind of was like leading the team and pointing out directions through being observant of how to stack the pallets better, more efficiently or something. And later the management gave me the leadership role, and then later that also meant that I would be the one they held responsible for scanning in the electronics that were over $100. So then that leadership position gave me more responsibility. At Honda, they also made me the leader over the express department, and I was the one that kept the guys moving and made sure that the wait times were being met, made sure cars were being looked over efficiently, and used my powers of observation to make sure that everything was going in sync and that the guys were doing what they had to be doing and everything was getting handled efficiently and accordingly. One place I had to adjust to changes I had no control over a lot was at Honda. Saturdays, they run a short crew in service. So, that being the busiest day, sometimes people had to get other places to get the work done. My guys in the express department pretty much just did oil changes and rotates and light duty maintenance. Then the main shop had guys doing big repairs and recalls and such like that. Sometimes the main shop would get over, too much work. So like towards the end of the day, they'd start pulling my guys out of express and put them in main shops so they could handle some of the little stuff so the guys could focus on the bigger jobs. What that meant for me as express is if we didn't get less cars coming in, that just means I had to deal with less people. So sometimes I grab one of the porters, the people that move cars, to start testing batteries out in the parking lot. I'd have the guys work in teams instead of each doing one car. If you work two on a car at a time, you can each do different things and you can be in one area the other isn't, so you can get the car out faster and more efficiently because you're able to look different parts of the car over. Instead of rushing through one car, you get two people focusing on that one car in all the different areas so everything gets looked over. So sometimes if I lost my crew, I would do those couple things to try and keep everything pushing forward. The kind of supervisor I work best for is someone that challenges me but respects me and I respect. There was a supervisor, the service manager at the Nissan dealership I worked at back home. His name was Jim. And he had worked with me a long time. And when I got in a car accident, he actually held my job for me until I got back because, again, he respected me. He knew that whenever he asked me to do something, I did it. And he would kind of give me things outside of my job to do, but he gave it to me because he knew I could do it and it'd be done right. So I helped him with, some accounting or like some office duties, but my job was actually to be in the shop. So he'd sometimes give me, parts runs to do. He gave me the bank deposits to do just because he knew I respected him. And he, again, challenged me to do things outside of my job, but he knew I could handle it. And I respected him for it, and he respected me because he knew I'd get it done. And I still worked hard for him as much as I could. And when I left Michigan, I told him much in advance because I wanted him to have the chance to hire somebody so I could train him to replace me because I did a lot of stuff that my job wasn't necessarily supposed to do. And I didn't want to leave him hanging. So I definitely wanted to make sure that he had someone to fill my shoes. When I worked at Honda, I had this one gentleman that worked for me that started to give me a lot of slack. He and I got employed at the Honda at about the same time. And when I took the leadership role over the express department, he kind of felt like he might have had the same shot at it. So I think he gave me a hard time, didn't really take orders well from me. So a lot of the other guys in the shop were new. They had started not that long ago, and then he and I had been there the longest. So sometimes when I'd ask him to do something, he kind of would give me some resistance, or he just wouldn't do it. And the way to go about it would have been to, hold fast and make him do it and make a big scene. But I'm not really somebody that likes to make that much of a win. I wanted the job to get done at that point. So what I do is I tell him to do it, and then if he gave me slack, I'd bring it to his attention again. But then I kind of have someone else do it, so that it got done, and it didn't hold us back. But then later on, I'd pull him aside and I'd let him know what needed to happen at that point. And if it didn't happen again, I was gonna have to make some changes. One instance was he did something wrong, and I came and made an announcement about the correction to that wrong to the entire group to not single him out, and he started yelling and freaking out, and I just kind of walked away at that point. Like, I let him know that wasn't a welcome response, but I didn't do anything about it at that point again because it would have slowed the team down and made a big fuss. And in the end, it's about getting the job done and making sure the customer gets what they want. I look forward to hearing from you later, and hopefully you'll see that I can help you out and we can work as a team and get the job done.